Thank you very much. Good afternoon. First, I have to apologize. We speak in English. I'm supposed to have learned German a long time ago, but I forgot also a long time ago. So I will do my best in English. I have to say first that I'm very excited to be here this afternoon because we have to talk about a very interesting asset class these days that I would think all investors with any portion of fixed income asset in its portfolio will want to consider. We're a very interesting time in the market for leverage loans. So what I would like to cover this afternoon is first a quick presentation about the LBO loan market in Europe, then market trends that we have seen over the last couple of years, and then how to access this LBO loan market. And we'll conclude with a couple of key takeaways. Maybe before diving into the presentation itself, my name is Thierry Vergnes. I'm in charge of the debt fund management activity at Lyxor. And Lyxor, as most of you know, is a subsidiary of the Société Générale Group. So now, without further ado, let's move to LBO loans in Europe. LBO loans initially were mainly for small and medium-sized companies. I've selected just in front of you a few LBO, or recent LBOs across Europe. As you can see, companies can be large, and in terms of sector, very diversified sector. We have Boots, I'm sure most of you know the UK pharmacies. Iceland is a frozen food business in the UK, View Cinemas. ProSieben, no need to present. Picard is also a frozen food, by the way, in France. Or Picard, I'm sure you know well. And Rohr and Cayenne, you are very familiar with these brands as well, I assume. So now, moving from these few, let's say, big deals to the overall market. And the market in Europe is probably larger than most people think, and also it's very diversified. As you can see on this chart, between 2012 and 2011, there was 245 issue of LBO loans across Europe for a total issuance of more than 70 billion. And if you want to look first on the right, in terms of countries, as you can see, it's pretty diversified. Having said that, the three main European economies, of course, represent the bulk of the market, total 55%. The UK, where LBOs have been existing for a very long time, 24%, and then Germany and France come second and third. You will notice a portion of USA, 8%, which is not insignificant in the European market. It's not an error. It's because when a US company will do an LBO, typically in order to hedge its currency risk, if it has a significant portion of its business in Europe, it will issue also a Euro tranche. For example, a couple of years ago, Burger King did a LBO, and a big portion of the financing was done in Europe because Burger King has a significant portion of its business in Europe. And the rest of the countries are, as you can see, slightly less active. In terms of sector, you can see also it's pretty diversified. You would expect to see, for example, healthcare or retail being a significant portion of the business, as there is clearly some recurring activities in these sectors. But you will see also, for example, automotive sector, which is also a sector where we've seen some LBO loans. The key to a successful transaction in this type of sector, which can be very cyclical, it is to have the appropriate financial structure. And I suggest to look at a typical LBO structure, how it is organized in Europe. If we go from the top to the bottom, at the top you will see the private equity sponsor investing in the top co along with management. So the private equity sponsor will be the KKR, Carlyle, Blackstone. So investing the equity at the top co level. And then the top co will forward this equity into the mid co. And the mid co, this intermediate company, will raise debt from high yield investor or mezzanine investor. And this mid co then will take all this capital, the high yield capital, if I may say, and the equity, and invest in equity into the bid co, which is in fact the company which will make the acquisition of the target company. The leverage loan I will talk about are the loans which will finance this last acquisition, this acquisition of BidCo, by BidCo of the target, which means, as you can see, that it is all the blue boxes basically on this graph, which means that these financing are very close to the assets, so very close to the cash generation. And it's very important in terms of your seniority if there are any sort of difficulties during the life of the transaction. And if we look from a balance sheet perspective, how it goes, then as you can see, the senior secured debt, the blue part, dark blue part on this chart, is really at the top of the corporate structure, balance sheet structure. And because it represents between 35 and 50% of the total enterprise value, meaning the total purchase price, it means that there is between 65 and 50% of the purchase price which is below this debt, which will protect this debt in case of difficulties. And of course, it will have an impact in terms of recovery of your loan in case there are some difficulties. And now let's compare this senior secured debt, so the debt, remember, which was blue in the chart initially. Let's compare it with high yield bond on the left and with let's grade corporate bond on the right. Because clearly there are some interesting characteristics to take into account. The first one is that from an income perspective, the leverage loan receives a coupon which is typically Euribor plus margin. So these days about Euribor plus 5%. While high yield bond and corporate bonds will typically receive a fixed interest. Of course, it means that if Euribor were to increase, I don't expect that tomorrow morning, but at one point Euribor will move up because it's difficult to anticipate that it can go much lower down. This senior secured loan will benefit from an increase in interest rate, while both the corporate bond and the high yield bond, on the contrary, may be negatively impacted from a value perspective, market value perspective, of any sort of increase in interest rate. So it is a first significant difference. Second point in terms of security, the senior secured loan, as their name indicates, has a security on the assets of the company we finance, while corporate bonds and high yield bond will have either no security or will be subordinated to the senior secured debt. So another advantage for the senior secured loan. Third point, which is less known, it is the information that we receive as a manager or owner of this leverage loan. We typically receive monthly information from the companies, like any banks would do. While in the high yield market or corporate bond market, you will receive information on a quarterly basis, sometimes half-yearly basis. So this flow of monthly information is very helpful for us to manage our portfolio and to monitor our credits. Fourth point, covenants. In a senior secured loan, you will benefit from a set of covenants which will limit what the company can do while the loan is outstanding. For example, if there is a commitment for the company in year 1 to have an EBITDA ratio, which means debt divided by EBITDA of 4 times or less, and then the second year it will be, let's say, 3.5 times or less, the company has to comply with these limits. If the company at the end of the second year is at 3.7 times, while it should be at 3.5 or less, then the lenders and the company and the equity sponsor will have to sit around the table and to discuss what to do next. And then it is at that time that the lender will ask, for example, the equity sponsor to contribute a bit more equity, or the company maybe to sell a non-core subsidiary. So we are in a position where we can anticipate any sort of liquidity issue for the issuer, for the company, for the borrower. If you own a bond, typically the default will come much later in the process, because the company will have had months or years, for example, to sell some of its assets, to keep going, and when the company will end up, for example, not being able to pay the coupon for the high yield bond, it is likely that the company will be in a much more severe stage, much more damaged stage, than if the investors had benefited from the covenants we benefit in the loan asset class. And it has some impact also, as we will see in a few seconds, in terms of the default rate of one asset class versus the other. Liquidity, it's something talked about in particular because bonds are publicly listed, while loans, it is a private market. It is true that it's private market, but it is an active private market. And I have seen over the last 5-6 years, basically since the crisis, a very significant development of transactions on the loan market. It is something we had seen. It happened that before launching this business with Lyxor 6 years ago now, I was in the US. And in the US, for a long time, we've seen leveraged loans traded. But in Europe, by 2004, I noticed that the market was really a buy and hold loan market. Since the crisis, investment banks have developed very active secondary desk. So it's a market, the loan market now is a very actively traded market, which allows asset managers then to build diversified portfolio and also to monitor their portfolio depending on the performance of the various credits. It's a very positive evolution for the asset class that we've seen this liquidity also in Europe, as it has been the case in the US. Now, how the asset class has performed recently, in particular during the crisis, in terms of default rate and recovery rate. And we see in this chart that on the first line that high yield bonds have a default rate of about 3%, leveraged loan 2.6%. So there is a bit of an advantage to the leveraged loans, and I would allocate, if I may say, this advantage and explain this advantage by the fact that we have these covenants we just talked about, because we have the ability to ask the borrower as the equity sponsor to support companies very early in the process. Of course, it reduces the risk of default rate. But the most significant difference is on the recovery rate. As you can see, high yield bond recovery rate is about 42% versus recovery rate for loan about 59%. So it's where you have a very significant difference at the advantage of the loan, and it is perfectly understandable because we have seen on one hand the high yield bond is typically unsecured and high up the corporate structure versus the senior loan, which is directly on the asset, financing the assets, and with the security on the assets of the company. And it's where it is what explains this very favorable recovery rate. Now, who has been active buyer of these LBO loans? We've seen two categories of buyers over the last 10 years. There's been banks on one hand, we'll come back on banks, and CLOs. CLOs are also called collateral loan obligations, are debt funds which have been raised in Europe mainly between 2005 and 2007. Basically, no CLOs were issued since 2007 in Europe. And as you can see on this chart, the number of what we showed is the number of CLOs still actively investing in Europe. This number is reducing pretty dramatically. Between the end of 2011 and the end of 2030, we will move from 129 CLOs actively investing down to 30. We lose almost 100 CLOs, investors. It represents, in terms of investing capacity, about 12 billion. So 12 billion of investing capacity will have disappeared in 2 years versus what we saw a bit earlier, the European market, which was, in terms of total issuance, between 30 and 40 billion a year. So it is a massive gap, if I may say, that has to be filled. And who can fill that? Let's look on this chart what's happening with the two traditional buyers. So we said CLOs, because of the end of the reinvestment period, they can no longer invest. And banks, as far as banks are concerned, they used to own this market basically. In the up to 2000, banks were owning probably between 80 and 90% of this market. Today it's about 50%. And they cannot replace the CLO bid, as we say, the CLO buying power. On the contrary, banks tend to reduce their exposure to this asset class because of constraints of Basel II and Basel III. Indeed, these loans are rated flat B, B plus, double B minus, which means that for regulatory reasons, they attract a lot of regulatory capital. So it's very expensive for banks to keep this asset class on the balance sheet. Therefore, many banks have adopted the same model, which is originate to distribute, which is what we have seen in the US, and it works extremely well in the US. But it means that they need to find new investors, new funds, to participate in this marketplace. And these new investors are coming indeed, but what are they asking for? They are asking for higher margin and more conservative financing structure. So very favorable to investors, but it's understandable because really it is the investors which will allow this market to work because neither banks nor CLO are either willing or capable of investing these days. And what is happening today? As you can see on this chart, we have a massive shift of margin between what we have seen for a long time, between 1998 and 2007, when the margin, I'm looking at the B and C, the blue line, which is the bullet loans, it's the infinite loans, which are typically the loan bought by funds. So as you can see, this blue line was between 250 basis points for 10 years, basically till 2007. And then we see this massive shift, and today the same loans will pay about 450, 500 basis points. And you will see also that the investors managed to extract, if I may say, very conservative structure. If you look on the left, the leverage used to be about 4.5 times. If you look at the purple column, now we are down to 3.5 times. So a much more conservative leverage in the transaction. And regarding equity contribution by sponsor, as you can see on the right, the equity sponsor used to fund about 33% of the purchase price of companies. Today it's about 50%. Okay? So a lot of cushion below our debt to support the debt. Now, what do we see in the market relative to this phenomenon? On the bond market, we have seen, if you look on the left, a fantastic rally. It is the purple line. The high-yield bond market has performed very strongly over the last year. As you can see, it moved like plus 16% in 2012. While the loan market performed well, but just 8%. That's the good news for the bond market, super performance. But if you look on the right, of course, it means that the spread of the high-yield bonds have decreased significantly in parallel. And as you can see today, the yield on the bond is equivalent, basically, to the yield on the leverage loan. So we have a situation where two asset classes generate the same yield, but one we've seen is clearly more secure, less credit risk, and on top of that, it is Euribor plus, so no interest rate risk versus the other one. And it's not the first time, as you can see in this chart, that we see this type of convergence, if I may say. We saw that in 2004, we saw that again in early 2011. But what we notice, what we can see in this graph, is that once we converge, after we have seen a correction of the high-yield market. Okay, so I don't know if this history will repeat itself, but clearly this graph is interesting in this respect to raise a question. As a fixed income investor, should I think about putting aside, if I may say, a portion of my gains on the high-yield bond portfolio towards less volatile, but the same yield asset class as the leverage loan asset class. I was talking about banks' position in Europe in terms of what they own of the market. It's what we see here. The purple line represents, in fact, the portion, the market share of the funds in Europe, and in this LBO loan asset class. As you can see, it represents about 50% at the end of 2012. It's growing, but 50%. In the US, we are at 80%. So clearly, there is room to grow for the debt funds in Europe. Now, how to access this market? That's a tricky question. We have a few challenges to go over. I will not spend too much time on them, but you have regulatory issues. Not all investors, of course, can buy loans because it's a private market. Difficult to originate deal flow unless you are really in the network of arranging banks and private equity sponsors. Back office management is just a pain because you have to adjust on a regular basis the coupon. The issuer can decide to buy 1 month, can decide to buy 3 months or 6 months, and you have to adjust the coupon all the time. And then you have to manage amendment and waivers. On top of that, if you are an isolated investor, if I may say, the liquidity of your portfolio will not be easy to achieve. You have 4 alternatives to access this asset class then. You can acquire and recruit a team to do so, but it's really possible only for the massive institution because it's pretty costly to put in place. You can mandate an asset manager to manage 30, 40, 100 million for you or more, but you need to provide this asset manager with at the bare minimum 30 million euros. Or you can invest in a CLO fund or in a specialized loan fund. If you invest in a CLO fund, what you will buy a note which will pay a fixed margin for 5, 6, 10 years. Okay? It's a way to access this asset class, but it's not you will have only an indirect access to the performance of the portfolio, because you will have a note which will pay a fixed margin, Euribor plus 140, Euribor plus 235 bips, and so on. The other way to access this market, and it is the way that we see growing the most in Europe these days, it is to invest through a very simple structure. There is no tranching. It's really the portfolio, it's a fund filled with 40, 60, 80 loans, which will be invested in LBO transactions, either existing or new transaction coming to the market. And the fund will be managed by a specialized investor manager, asset manager. And it will give you the performance of the market. It's very transparent structure, very simple structure. And it will allow you, if you keep indeed this investment in this fund till the maturity of the fund, basically to remove from the performance of your portfolio the market risk. Because if the asset manager has done a good selection of the credits will repay at par in due course, regardless whether the market is up or down. It is the attractiveness of this type of structure. The way the asset manager will work, he will work a lot on the, at least we believe it's a key, on the asset sourcing, so developing an extensive network of relationship with private equity sponsor banks and so on, to have access to a very large deal flow to be able to select the best transactions. Then detailed credit analysis, top right, as you can imagine, financial projections in many scenarios. And then relative value analysis on a regular basis, so that he will arbitrage his portfolio to create the best performance for the investors, and then regular monitoring of transactions. And all that should conduct the manager to create a very diversified portfolio, and diversified in terms of number of issuers, 40 to 60 issuers, and also diversified in terms of sector, so that it provides a low volatility performance to the investor, and a nice yield. With a strategy like this one, you can target around Euribor plus 450 or Euribor plus 500 basis points. Key points to conclude. As we have seen a few minutes ago, high yield bonds yield now have converged towards LBO loan yield, while most LBO loans will benefit from senior security and benefit also from the advantage of receiving Euribor plus margin. So you have the LBO loan, an asset which will pay the same yield, but you benefit from less credit risk and no interest rate risk. The European LBO market now is developed such a way that it is very diversified and also very sufficient liquidity to allow asset manager to build diversified portfolio. And through, this is my last point, now through these debt funds managed by specialized asset manager, the investors have now access to this asset class, which was in the past only really available to banks and some CLO managers. I think it's a very interesting and very exciting development for this asset class in 2013. I'm very happy to take any question you may have.
Herzlichen Dank. Also so wie ich das verstanden habe, gibt es einfach für geringes Risiko mehr Renditen. Wirft vielleicht noch die eine oder andere Frage auf?
Do you actually have a performance comparison of high yield bonds versus loans for a longer period of time?
You have seen the yield in a chart.
Yes, the yield, not the performance, that's what I'm asking.
Yes, because it's difficult. You will not be able to compare the two asset classes appropriately, if I may say. because the yield bond investor performance will depend very much when he comes in, when he gets out. Okay? On the loan market, you buy basically at par, most cases, and if you have done a good job, you get repaid at par. So it is your current yield which will make your performance. So it depends. The timing is critical for the bond investor, and so for the bond market performance, versus the loan market, which is far less volatile. Except 2008, as you can see. I'm happy to explain what happened in 2008 for the loan asset class, because it has been much more volatile than it should be, and that I don't think it will be.
Sonst noch jemand? Okay. But if the loan markets are so attractive, why are the inflows are so low?
Yes, sorry.
The loan market, you have said, is an attractive market, but why are the inflows so low?
Okay. Investors are not coming into the loan market at this point. It's hard time to get access to this loan market, to the loan market versus the bond market, because one is private, the other one is public. And so far, there's a limited numbers of this reason. So I think the interest for the loan asset class is growing rapidly because of this short.
Sonst noch eine Frage, oder wollen Sie das nachmachen, erledigen? Gut. All diese Loans und Anleihen notieren natürlich auch jeweils in irgendeiner Währung. Ich sage ganz herzlichen Dank einmal und einen Applaus für Mr.